The successor to the Hubble Space Telescope appears to be fully funded to the tune of $530 million for the next fiscal year.
Yeah, joining us live to discuss the James Webb Space Telescope, or Hubble 2.0, and its importance to space and to the space program. Space and aviation technology expert Miles O'Brien. Miles, just a pleasure to have you back here. We haven't spoken to you in a while.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah. You know what? A lot of us have enjoyed over the years going online and seeing the spectacular photos that get posted from Hubble, the original one. And so, aside from them being spectacular photos, I'm not a scientist. What do we learn from those photos, and where do we go from here with this new telescope?
Well, Hubble can only take us so far back in time, if you will. You know, it is a time machine. As it looks deeper and deeper into space, it is seeing things that were created not long after the Big Bang. The James Webb Telescope goes a lot farther out in space, about 1.5 million miles from where we sit right now, and it operates the infrared spectrum, which means it can pick out tiny little stars that were born just a matter of a few 100 million years after the Big Bang. So what we're looking at is our very origins of the universe. And some people might say, is that worth the money? And I would say to you, there's probably no better question to pose.
Yeah, you know, I have to ask, though, why now did they decide to spend this money? I mean, you know, Phil and I sit in here every day and hear about all the problems with the Russian space system and, you know, this or that, some satellite. We're thinking, and this is who's going to carry our astronauts to the space station. They have not spent money in some other areas, but why now on this?
Well, I mean, I would suggest to you this is as good a expenditure that NASA could make. When you think about how Hubble has rewritten textbooks, you know, we take it for granted when we're worried about traffic on the 405 every morning, but we live in a golden era of astronomy, thanks in large part to Hubble, that has changed dramatically the way we view the world and the universe. James Webb is just going to answer even more deeper, more profound questions, and I think that's worth a small chunk. It really is a tiny piece of the budget. Why don't we talk about some of those crazy Pentagon defense expenditures that we have, which dwarf James Webb and NASA's budget. I mean, they have specific weapons programs at the Pentagon that exceed the entire NASA budget. So I think in the mix of things, it's worth it. If it inspires a couple of kids to math to become an engineer and keep us competitive, why not?
Yeah, I'm just surprised that Congress realized that. I mean, I think it's worth it.
This is another issue entirely. We don't have a lot of science lovers in Congress, do we?
Hey, you know what, Miles? I want to ask you, because the information is so fascinating that comes from these telescopes, and of course scientists dig into that, and they learn and they understand better how any number of things about the universe. And I do understand that the images that are taken could be light years away, may have happened thousands, if not millions of years ago, and the data or the images are just arriving where the telescope can photograph those things. So, but I wonder if you see something that requires action. I don't know what it would be, but what would you do?
Asteroid.
Yeah, what would you do with that information as a scientist?
Well, you know, it's interesting because, you know, another spacecraft that NASA is out there, Kepler, is looking for planets that might be a little bit like Earth. Well, now imagine if they find an intelligent species there, and it is, you know, 500 light years away. It's kind of hard to tell a joke to that civilization when you've got a 1,000-year round trip, right? The punchline is a little bit ruined.
Yeah.
So, yes, to a certain degree, we are limited by physics and how fast we can travel. There's only so much we can do. Having said that, to the extent that it expands our minds and helps us understand our universe, and, you know, let's not forget, it's not like we're shipping all that money into space. It's spent on defense contractors, many of them right there in Southern California, and keeps smart engineers and scientists employed in the U.S. It's one of the last things that we, you know, are an actual exporter on is aerospace. So let's not lose this one.
Oh, Miles, are you concerned at all about the fact that we don't have a shuttle system or something to get to the space station?
I'm just devastated that we're in this situation with this huge gap where we have no capability of getting to the space station on our own. It was completely preventable if we spent a little bit of planning in advance. We knew the shuttle couldn't fly forever. It's appropriate to have retired it. It's complicated and dangerous and all of that. But here we are in this situation where we really don't have a firm plan of what's next. We're hoping that commercial spacecraft will fill in this gap soon. SpaceX, right there in Hawthorne, California, run by Elon Musk, is doing some really exciting, promising things. But nevertheless, NASA needs to be pushing the envelope itself, and that's not happening right now because of a lot of uncertainty over the budget. And I would submit to you, everybody says, oh, we can't afford this. We're talking about collectively the cost of what we spend on coffee every day goes to NASA. So the question is, if we have money for Starbucks, we can have a few bucks for the stars.
Wow, that's
Yes.
a line we're going to remember for a while. Miles O'Brien, we could talk to you for hours, but thank you for spending just a little bit of time with us talking about the James Webb Space Telescope Hubble 2.0.